Let's take a quick look at the day's business news now, starting with the markets. Wall Street boasted record closing numbers on Thursday, despite some disappointing data on U.S. economic growth. As you can see there, the Dow Jones up nearly 0.7%, S&P 500 up nearly 1%, and the Nasdaq up over 1% at 1.4%. Well, meanwhile, most Asian markets were in the red early Friday as fears about growth and inflation persist. As you can see, there's been a little bit of some positive changes now. Tokyo's Nikkei up now nearly 0.4 points. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is down, however, nearly 0.5 percentage point. Shanghai Composite up nearly 0.2, and Seoul's Kospi down 0.5%. Well, for more on the markets, we will cross now to our analyst standing by in Istanbul, Reyhan Beysan. Reyhan, what is the latest on the global market movement this Friday?
Good morning. On the last trading day of the week, we see a mixed sentiment over in Asia. Actually, we were watching the Asian stocks, like supplier stocks of Apple, because yesterday after the closing bell, the company reported its reports, and actually it was not very as expected. It fell short of expectations. And what Apple CEO Tim Cook said was really interesting. He said this was attributed this to larger than expected supply constraints, and this is something really important and which might stretch into 2022. And even though Apple and Amazon, for instance, reported lower than Wall Street expectations, we see actually a lot of companies reporting better than expectations, which has been boosting the markets. And over in Europe, investors focused on the ECB meeting yesterday. The European Central Bank held its interest rate and monetary policy unchanged. There was no changes, but during these days in which markets are very sensitive to inflation worries, the bank reiterated its stance on high inflation and temporarily this will be temporary, and pushed back against market expectations of interest rates hikes next year.
And Reyhan, U.S. growth in the third quarter slowed pretty sharply. What might that mean for the upcoming Fed decision and for the markets in the coming days?
So we received disappointing data, as you also said. It grew only 2% in the third quarter on a yearly basis, which is the slowest increase actually since the end of 2020 recession. And again, we see supply chains playing a role here, and the consumer spending decelerated, and consumer spending actually makes up the 69% of U.S. economy. So a slowdown was inevitable. So stagflation talks might heat up again, which means slow growth and higher inflation. But looking at other data, the COVID cases, and keeping in mind that these supply chain restraints will be temporary, then the U.S. economy is expected to bounce back in the fourth quarter. So the markets has interpreted this as just like a speed bump.
All right, Reyhan, unfortunately, we'll have to keep it there this time around. Thank you so much for the latest analysis from the markets. Reyhan Beysan in Istanbul. A distraction from the company's woes, or a genuine attempt at shifting its focus, or both? Facebook has announced it's rebranding its parent company as Meta, a move intended to show a new focus on the technology needed to create the metaverse. Well, Mark Zuckerberg believes that it will be the next fully immersive iteration of the internet, though critics say this is instead an attempt to distract from whistleblower claims that Facebook continues to put profit over safety. Luke Schrago explains.
Let's call her.
Imagine an internet that lets you immerse yourself within it. A shared virtual space connected with the real world and everyone in it. This is the metaverse. For Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, it's not fiction, but the next big thing, and the force behind his firm's rebranding, now to be known as Meta.
You guys like it here? I have another one that you're gonna love. Today, we are seen as a social media company. But in our DNA, we are a company that builds technology to connect people. And the metaverse is the next frontier, just like social networking was when we got started. Our brand is so tightly linked to one product that it can't possibly represent everything that we're doing today, let alone in the future.
The term metaverse owes its origins to a 30-year-old dystopian novel, but technology advances now mean it could be reality within 10 years. The apps the newly christened entity runs, like Facebook itself, Instagram and WhatsApp, among others, won't change names, but rather the corporate parent company, which wants to highlight a focus on developing metaverse tech moving forward. However, the now former Facebook has seen increasing criticism in recent weeks and months, not least after leaked papers apparently showed the firm knew the damage its algorithms could do worldwide and ignored warnings in favor of profit, sparking questions over whether the company was trying to deflect the spotlight elsewhere.
A rebrand doesn't happen overnight. No doubt that this has been in the works for some time, but absolutely the timing does not look very good. It does make you wonder whether they could have done this at a different point in their evolution as a company.
Either way, Meta will still be ploughing its energy into its new project. The former Facebook recently announced it would be hiring 10,000 new staff in the European Union to that end.